Welcome to my podcast, where we are going to talk about a lifestyle with dogs and throw in a few life lessons along the way. Whether you're a hound hunter, bird dog enthusiast, running setters, pointers, retrievers, or a flat-out running dog junkie, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Heath Hyatt, a certified law enforcement canine trainer with over 3 decades of personal and professional training and handling experience. It's time for me to pay it forward. So grab your leads, lace up those boots, and come and join me on this lifelong process of teaching, training, and learning. Are you looking to unlock your dog's full potential and give them the best nutrition possible for peak performance? Then look no further. Inukshuk has what you're looking for. Inukshuk's nutrient-dense formulas are crafted to keep your dog's energy high and performance top-notch. Packed with premium proteins and essential fats, Inukshuk delivers the balanced nutrition your dog needs to thrive. From hunting dogs to police canines, Inukshuk is trusted by professionals. Give your dog the power of peak performance with Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. Welcome back to another episode of What's Up Wednesday, podcast for every hunter who's ever followed a good-nosed hound through the woods. I'm Heath Hyatt, and each week we're going to dive into tips, tales, and training tricks to turn your hound into a hunting machine. Whether you're just getting started or you've logged thousands of miles with your pack, there's always something in here for you. So let's get today's episode started. Just a quick catch up. Hunted this morning. The weather was pretty cool. Humidity's still up in the mid-90s, even though we were down in the 50, I think 49, 50 this morning. And I don't know if you guys are running into the same issue I'm running into. And let's just say 3 out of 5 bear are not treeing. Like, it's ridiculous that the amount of bear that are just staying on the ground. And I know a couple episodes ago, I told you guys that, I'd called my dogs off a bear on the ground. I've already done that 3 times this year. And that's about my limit. Like, I don't want to continue to keep doing this. It doesn't seem to affect them. This morning, rigged a track. And they took it, went up a holler over into a pretty thick area. And it seemed like they caught pretty quick. And they took it up that draw and they made a loop in there. And they come back and ended up making another loop the other direction. So it was they made a loop-de-loop. They went up, made a loop. They come back through the same area and then made another loop. But when they did that loop, I'm not sure what happened, but the dogs kind of scattered a little bit. And I thought, well, did he run them off? What was going on? Well, everybody pulled back together except one of my 2-year-olds. And I've been giving this a lot of thought. Like, I'm hunting 3 2-year-olds, and I've got one that's pretty solid, which is Sassy. Briggs is doing some really good things, and he's the youngest of the 2-year-olds. He's doing some really good things, but then you just kind of like, you have a really good day, and then you have another good day, and then you want to pull your hair out the 3rd day. It's like, where'd you come up with that? Or what are you doing? Like, you've been consistent, and now you have a brain fart. Lady, which is my other 2-year-old that I was hunting today, she got messed up in them loop-de-loops and got hung up and never could work herself out of it. Well, the dogs dropped out of the mess when they kind of scattered a little bit and pulled back together, and they went back down, made a loop, crossed the mountain, went into a big valley. And when I had to drive around, so you're looking at 40 minutes. When I got around where I could actually pick signal back up, Hart and Sass were treed. And Hootie had got caught up in some rocks. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. Got caught up in some rocks, him and Briggs. They ended up making it into the tree. But Hart and Sass were definitely the 2 that pulled their weight this morning. And then the other 2, I don't know what happened. They went over top of the rocks. This is a big ledge drop. I mean, I want to say it's a cliff. It's enough where the dog can't get over it. They got to go around it. Anyway, they got the other two dogs got messed up, but they ended up coming back over to where I ended up picking them up way after. But anyway, the time I got around there, I had to walk 1.62 miles into them and 1.62 miles out. There was no way to get there, but in and out, which, that's not a horrible walk. It was a good walk. It wasn't bad at all. I didn't have to pull a lot of elevation, which was good. But, it took the majority of the morning. But back to what I was saying, like, that was one that treed, and that race was probably, I'm going to say probably 8 miles. Could have been pushing 10. I didn't look at the GPS, but this is one of the things I noticed. Guys will say, hey, my dogs run 25 miles. Well, if you're rigging, like when you turn your collar on and it resets and you're on top of the truck and you're rigging around the mountain and you rig around that mountain twice and then you drop the dogs loose and they run off the mountain and tree, it's actually recording the whole track. So you kind of be careful with that. But yeah, I think they probably run 8 to 10 miles this morning. Like I said, I had to drive all the way around. It takes me, 40 minutes. But anyway, they had a little old small, 80 pounder. Like, that's what I'm catching is 80 pounders. 100 pounders a big bear for what I'm seeing. But yeah, so 3 out of 5 bear that I'm catching is literally catching on the ground. And I've not had, I was walking out today after getting the dogs caught up, and I was like, like, I've got 2 young dogs. I got 2-year-old dogs. I've not had a really good training bear. And all you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, I've not had a good training bear. Like, they're sitting up in the nosebleed where you can't see them. They're in thick stuff where the foliage and stuff is so thick underneath, you really can't see them. Or they're on the ground and they don't want to climb. And I can't say that those aren't training bear, but I literally just took staples out. I just took staples out of 3 dogs. They actually got to hunt them today. Today's their first day they get out in 14 days, so they're a little bit behind. But yeah, so that was my morning. It wasn't horrible. I did catch one, and thankful for that. Dogs should have stayed together a little bit better. Like I said, I had 3 that didn't cooperate. Like I said, lady got up there and got jacked up in wherever they split, and the other 2 got hung up around in the ledges. But that's a part of hunting dogs. And I did the struggle a couple weeks ago, week before last, and I was walking out and I was thinking about that. I was thinking about, I'm not questioning what I'm doing today. It is what it is, but it wasn't easy. It was a little bit harder day than normal, just because the amount of territory, walking you got to do. Like I said, 5 miles isn't horrible. Like, a lot of people do that in their sleep, but it's part of hunting. So there's where we're at with it. All right, before we get into the episode, like, I put a lot of thought into this, and I could probably do 2 or 3 episodes with this one. So today, we're just going to get a condensed version of it. But here's just kind of my sight and my thoughts on it. When you step off of these Appalachian hollows before daylight, there's a certain kind of stillness that hangs in the air. The fog clings low to the valleys. The ridges stand dark against the first hint of light. You can hear the hound's collar jingle, maybe a little low whine, and they're itching to go. But there's a world of difference between just turning a pack loose and truly packing hounds. Out here, the mountains will show you quick whether your dogs are working as one or just running wild. So today's episode, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about the difference. And it's the kind of difference that only the hills, the hardwoods, and hunting will teach you. And it's going to be pack versus packing. And this actually hit me earlier this year about the difference. And in my, my career, I'm 31, getting ready to be 32 years in. I went full circle with this. And without actually thinking about it and giving it a lot of thought, I have done both. And I won't give it away, but I still use both methods. So let's just kind of break it down before we get into this. Let's talk about packing hounds. And one thing that I've noticed is that when you're packing hounds, like I see a lot of new guys using this style or this technique or whatever you want to call it. And I got to give credit where credit's due. When I was rebuilding my pack, several years ago, man, I was riding my guy's shirt tails because I didn't really have a start dog. I couldn't hardly find a bear. And every chance that they had one up and running, I was in their back pocket because I was trying to put my dogs to them so I could get some experience. So I notice this a lot with newcomers. And then when I think about running a pack, I go back in the mid 90s, how I was taught. And I'll go through that one in a minute. I don't want to blow this up. But packing hounds is about building a team that hunts like one. Every dog has its place. The strike dog that knows how to open, he cold trails, he can work out a bad track. It's an honest trailing dog. And they're hard driving dogs. They keep race where they need to be. And when you pack hounds, you were thinking about balance, not numbers. You pick and choose which dogs run best together or where dogs need to be added or held back. A good pack will roll a track steady, each dog filling in where the other one leaves off. And it's a beautiful thing to hear, especially in the hollows when you get a pack running together. Now let's talk about running a pack. That was packing. Running a pack is different. This is where you've got a string of dogs and you just cut them loose. You know what we say? Drop the tailgate. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. Power in numbers. Everybody loves when the ground shakes when you do that. They open up together. They push hard. Dogs. Here's where you run into problems. Dogs overrun one another. Some actually may even trash. The whole race can get messed up if you're just dumping dogs. It's exciting, no doubt, right? It's the kind of sound that'll raise the hair on your neck, but it also takes a strong hand to keep control of when you're running a pack. So let me just kind of break down each one. And I'm going to tell you a little bit how I have been involved or how I've learned from these. And when I was starting out, I was learning and didn't even know I was learning. I was just along for the ride, right? So everybody understands a pack, group of hounds. Packing. A pack is a noun. Packing is a verb, okay? Packing means the pack is on the trail, and if you want to do a visual, it'd be like a pack of coyotes or a pack of wolves operating as one. And if you've ever watched videos of them hunting, it's very interesting how they work as a unit. That's a pack. And packing is when a dog stays with the pack or joins the track. The young dog, like today, I turned a young dog loose and she went with the pack. So I was packing her. It refers to an act of being alone. Often when the dogs are moving together. So since I feel like a lot of newcomers are packing, let's talk about packing first. Okay. So going to go through some pros and some cons. And if somebody's got a bear up and running We're trying to feed in dogs. And what brought this up? Like, this is when I started thinking about it back in August, is I noticed that a lot of people are packing fresh dogs continuously, right? And when you do that, eventually you're going to catch the game, because if you're keeping fresh legs on it, sooner or later something's got to give, right? And I got to thinking, I'm like, all right, well, I'm running 5 or 6 dogs, and I'm not catching as much at the point in time. I was getting that run, and I just started breaking it down. And I'm like, okay, well, when we hunt this way and we have more people hunting with us, usually somebody's packing. And I thought, we're way more successful in the early season when dogs are packed. So that's kind of what got my brain wheels turning and me thinking about packing versus pack. So the pros to packing: you can be selective. You can send dogs based on the terrain, bear behavior, what dogs. If you need speed, you can throw your faster dogs up there. If the dogs are getting in more rough places, or places like today, they're going to get ledged out, then you may want to hold them back a little bit. Let a dog or two work its way through that area, and then find another place to do it. Less risk to the dogs, because I've told you, when it's hot, I'm catching my dogs pretty quick, so it keeps them fresher, and it reduces injury to exposure to injury. Sorry. So that's something that it does do. And like I said, they're easier to handle and monitor dogs in the stage. Like, you can tell in different stages of the race, like, what's doing what, who's doing the majority of the work. Is your dogs, if you've got a really fast dog, and I actually seen this today, like, and you just heard me talk at the beginning of the podcast, like Bridger, my 2-year-old, like, makes me want to pull my hair out. Probably one of the fastest dogs that I have. But if he gets hung up in the middle behind a slower dog, he will not push forward. And I know that he can outrun those dogs. I know he can. I've seen him do it. And he's just not doing it. So that aggravates me. But anyway, back to kind of monitoring what we're doing. The cons of it is blowing up races. Like, if you got a dog that's trailing and you just start throwing dogs in there to it, you're going to have dogs that are loose mouth or babbling. I've got one that I'm very careful with when I turn loose, because I know what they're going to do on the way there. And I can keep it quiet, but it's still going to be some whimpering and some whining. And I want my dogs, I want them going to where they're supposed to be and not drawing dogs off, because that's a big problem. And I don't know if you guys ever had it happen, but like, somebody packs to a tree and their dogs go right past the tree, and it pulls the dogs off the tree. I mean, how many of you had that happen? Like, there's some cons to it. Missed opportunities. I've been here, done this. Like, I needed to get my dogs in, and I held, and the next thing you know, the dog turns and goes out of hearing, or goes into a place that's too far, or is getting ready to top out. That happens a lot. And then you missed out. So now you've got that dog that you needed in the race, or was trying to teach and learn, and it's in the back of your truck and it's not doing any good. I will also say, kind of piggybacking off that if you're packing and you're doing it diligently, it requires some pretty good timing and knowledge of your dogs. Like, you need to know what each dog's capable of, what you can and can't do. Last week, I had 2 dogs walking a bear, and I was 900 yards from them. So I got 2 of my older dogs out, and stood on the side of the road with them till they could hear, ears perked up, they're leaning forward. You know that they're, bang, I got this. I'm hearing this. And I packed them from 900 yards. All right. Problem is, where I packed them to, the dogs were gone. So they had to come in behind. But I know my dog. I know that if I send my 2 old dogs, they're going. If they hear it, they're going. They hit the track. There you go. It is what it is. So what is the best situations for packing? It's going to be cold trailing, thick cover. We talked about that. Where the terrain's rough, hold, get the dogs through that rough country. And when they break out of there, that's when you want to put dogs to them. I don't like more dogs bare on the ground. We just had a short discussion. Less for me is better, because the more dogs you get, they can't get out of the way. They end up getting beat up or hurt or cuts or bites and whatever. So I'm not a big fan of that. So let me go back and tell you how my career started. When I started hunting, it was monkey see, monkey do. I watched the older guys around me, and I piggybacked off of what they did. So then we packed dogs. We had 2 dogs loose, 3 dogs loose. They were free casting. The rest of the dogs were kept on the lead. And you just started walking. You walked in the mountains until you cut a track, and the dogs start trailing. And at the time, looking back on it now, I completely understand the behavior, but I didn't have a clue. Like I said, I was learning then. I didn't even know I was learning. But I watched him do it numerous times. And I'll give, Lance Hutton credit. Like, this is where I picked this up and learned it. Lance had 2 old dogs that he'd leave loose. When those dogs opened and started trailing, he'd cut one of these young dogs loose right with them. And if that dog stayed in there and started opening, he'd cut another dog loose with them. If that dog stayed in there, started opening, he usually carried 3 to 4 dogs. But if that dog came back, if that dog went in there on that track and he came back, put him back on the lead. So what's the valuable lesson here? He was causing frustration, and you hear me talk about building drive and building the dog up by frustration. When that dog comes back and he puts him on the lead, he's not able to go. The next time he turns him loose, he's like, I'm going. And, it may take several of those trips to do that. But that's basically the process of what was going on there. And like I said, I had no clue. So that's how I learned. I learned to cut a couple dogs loose, keep a couple dogs with you. When they got to trailing, you fed them in. If they stayed, let them be. If they didn't, you put them on the lead. So when I'm free casting dogs today, I actually use that method. I cut 2 or 3 of my old dogs loose. I keep 2 or 3 with me. And when they open, I'm sending them, depending on what's going on. So I still use that method, packing. Okay. So let's talk about hunting the pack. And like when I talk about hunting the pack, I really think about the guys out west, because I have so many of them that are friends or acquaintances, and through conversations, they're like, you either get them in now or you don't get them in, right? It's not like here where the roads are more accessible. I mean, there are places that if you don't get them in, you don't get them in, but it's not like out there. So to me, when I envision a pack, I envision what the guys out west are doing. And I will tell you, well, I'll get into that in a minute. So running a pack, it takes a lot of different mindset. Temperaments, takes a lot of handler skill and training, role of development within the pack. You're looking for dogs that's got good stamina, nose, courage, intelligence, independence, but not too much. Strong bay and tree instincts, because when you cut them loose, there is no help. It's them. right? So let's make sure that we're clarifying what we're looking at here. So running a pack, the pros of it is more than likely you're going to get your game located and everybody's going to be together and it works as a unit. You know, it's just like teamwork. You know, a season pack is going to work really well together, and they're going to wear the bear down. Like they're going to catch it and walk it in bed, or they're going to tree it, hold it in place. Let's just say that. You know, it's kind of faster action, especially if it's a hotter track, because you've got multiples. Bam, bam, and there you go. Go back to the risks of it. I just said it. Like, I don't like a lot of dogs on the ground with a bear. I feel like they get hurt more. It's hard when they get in tough country. Like, you gotta, that pack really needs to stay together and work together and depend on each other. When I'm teaching one of my canine classes, I explain a beagle pack to everybody, because when we're teaching tactical tracking, and I've got an element with me, a tracking team, and somebody starts yelling, the dog's like, "Oh, what's going on over there? What's going on over there?" And that's the same thing. Like, when one dog barks, if that pack knows each other and they hear that voice, you have no problem, man. That dog, or boom, boom, they're gone. But how many of you guys have went with somebody else and been hunting with another group of hounds? Dog barks and your dog perks his ears up. He's like, wonder who that is. Wonder what they're doing. You ever seen that? I mean, I've seen it recently within the last week. Within the last week, I've seen that. So anyway, the dogs work better together. Like I said, you can, if you're out of the race, you're out of the race. And if you've got everything loose, there's no help. I mean, it's on them. So this is where I kind of started like thinking about this more and more back there in August. So me, when I'm rigging, I hunt as a pack. When my dogs open the truck and I put them on the ground and they open, I put all the dogs together. And you've heard me say this before. Most of the time, my dogs are rigging bear. They're not rigging bear tracks. So it changes how we outlook at this. But I will say that my dogs usually stay together really, really well. I don't have a lot of problems of, having dogs out of place or not where they're supposed to be. Like today, one of the dogs that was out of place today, one of them was my year-old, and I honestly believe if I hadn't had the second dog there, I haven't got to hunt her much. I bought her, and I'm still learning her. She wasn't right, so I ended up testing her, and she tested positive for Lyme's and anaplasmosis. So I got her on docs, and I'm 16 days in, so I'm able to hunt her now. But she's different. She's not been a part of my pack yet. I mean, I've only got to hunt her like 5 times over the last 4 months. So I don't know a lot about her. I do know that she's very mouthy on the ground, and I feel like she pulled my pup with her, and the other dog just got away from him. But anyway, that's why my dogs were out of pocket today when you talk about hunting a pack. So I like turning my dogs loose, and they either do it or they don't. Yep. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I always kind of go back to what Ed Vance said that Willis Butall told him. You don't need more dogs, you need different ones. And if my dogs can't do it, then I've got to reevaluate my pack. So I have a very strong I don't even know the word to use, but I have a very strong desire for my dogs to be able to do it by themselves. Like I want to turn the 4, the 5, the 6, whatever I turn loose, and start to finish. Like I need you to start this, and I need you to finish it. And I don't care if it's the 8 miles, 10 miles we went today, or before last it was 19. Like I need you to do your job. And there's where we go back and we talk about, the stamina, the stay, the stick, because there's no help coming. Like today, when I turned them loose and they got over that mountain range, that was it. I mean, there was no, it's you guys, do it. And when I drove around, I mean, I've got good faith in my dogs, but they're not perfect by any means. Like, they're dogs. And when I drove around, I started picking the 2 dogs up top. They come over and got in that ledge area, and I'm like, and I didn't have the other dogs. They hadn't updated yet. And then, I drove another mile around the mountain, and boom, pops up, starts showing treed. And then I'm like, okay, let's see if they sit there for a minute. But anyway, they were treed for a little over 2 hours before I got into them. That's how long it took me. But I have a very deep desire to run a pack. So this comes full circle, and I just kind of explained it to you. Like when I'm rigging, I turn my dogs loose as one. And I can put, just because one dog opens on the truck, I may put another one down. Like I'm trying to get some young dogs starting these tracks. So my more seasoned hounds, my 4-year-olds, I may hold them and turn the 2-year-olds loose and let them try to get it figured out. And then I'll put them in behind it. Or let's go, let's talk about packing. I can't tell you times that I'll send a dog, I'll send an inexperienced dog, and then I'll send a very experienced dog in behind them. That way, if that inexperienced dog gets hung up, that experienced dogs will suck them in there and take them with them. But now we're kind of getting into a whole nother podcast. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with that. Like I like to run a pack, but I also use the packing method when I'm free casting. I don't have 6 or 8 dogs loose. I don't do that. I rotate them in and out, or I'll leave the older dogs at home, and I'll take the younger dogs and give them opportunity. In fact, by the end of this season, I think I already told you guys this, by the end of the season, I've got 4 dogs that I'm going to take them out several days. I'm probably just going to take 2 of them at a time. And I may take 3. I don't know. Haven't quite decided that yet. But I'm going to take 2 of them at a time and just see where we're at as the season gets to an end for me, which is September. So a lot goes on with packing versus pack. I hope everybody understands what I was talking about. Packing is when you're turning dogs into a trailing dog or to a dog that's getting ready to jump. Pack is turning them loose, and they're one unit, and they work together from beginning to end. And I'll tell you the story real quick, because I thought about it when I was thinking about this podcast. So I don't know, 2000, maybe 2001, I was hunting my old Frosty dog, and I didn't have anything go with him. Like I was trying dogs and getting dogs, and that's right before Belle. She was probably a puppy, or I have to go back and look. Belle was either young or I didn't have her yet. No, she was a puppy, and I didn't have her in yet, and I was just trying to find a dog to go with Frosty. Like it was always him, always him, always him. So I bought a dog from Van Johnson. It was a Myers bred dog. Anybody remembers old Doug Myers and the P Cowboy and Bam Bam dogs? That was the breed of it. And I told Van, I'm like, Van, this is what I need something that's going to go with him. Like I need something that's going to go and stay with him. And Van told me, very honest with me, He was like, he ain't much of a trail dog, but if your dog's opening, he'll go and stay with him until he jumps. And that dog will come alive right as he jumps or right before he jumps. So I bought him, and he was exactly what I needed. If Frosty opened, I could put Rocket with him, and Rocket would stay with him and stay with him and stay with him. And about the time that they would come get ready to jump, you would hear Rocket, yo, 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 and then it would be on. And one of the things that I was thinking about this today when I was walking into these dogs is when they had the beep beep collars, you didn't know. Like I got in and I had 4 dogs at the tree, and when I would have been clicking them and hearing the the beep 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 beep, the tree switches going off, I'd have just took off walking there, right? Well, watching the GPS, I knew who was where, who was so far behind or how far behind, who got caught up in the rocks. Like, you didn't know that stuff back then. But anyway, but Rocket would go and stay with Frosty. They made a really good tandem, a good team. I started catching more bear, and then when Belle come along, her and Clyde was a couple years younger. It even got better. So anyway, I thought that was a good topic. I thought it's very interesting. I think everybody should really, evaluate, like think about, are you packing or are you running a pack? Because I think a lot of people are doing both. I mean, I do. Like I said, I'm full circle. I'm still doing the stuff that I learned back in 1994, 95 from the old timers. And what a valuable lesson it was. And now that I know more than what I did back then, I kind of understand the process. I understand what's going on. I'm not just doing it because back then I was just doing it because that's what they did. I didn't know. But it was a very valuable lesson. It was a great experience, and I learned a lot without knowing that I was learning. So that's a wrap for this week's What's Up Wednesday. Thank y'all for tuning in and walking the trail with me. If you got something out of today's episode, be sure to follow, share with a fellow hound hunter, and leave a review. Until next time, we'll see you at the tree.
Tailgate drops before the light, coolers packed and the rig sitting right, tracking collars charged, beeping green, boots in the bed and the rifle's clean. Dog box rattling, engines hum, we're chasing bear till the day is done. Old ring barking like he knows what's near, nose to the wind, tail full of cheer. From the Virginia mountains to the Carolina clay, we're burning fuel and miles each day. Every turn's another tale, through mountain mist and paper trails. We see the sunset red in Tennessee, rise through the fog in old WV. North Carolina's pines echo loud with the cry of a hard-run hound. New York forest, Maine's deep snow, Vermont valleys where the black bears go. Truck keeps rolling, wheels don't care. We're chasing daylight, chasing bear. Rest stops few, the roads are long, but the fire in our hearts still burns strong. Wisconsin mornings cutting crisp and clear, Canada's wildwoods drawing near. Still got states we ain't run, but that hound dog fever won't let us quit. We see the sunset red in Tennessee, rise through the fall in old WV. North Carolina's pines echo loud with the cry of a hard-run hound. New York frost, Maine's deep snow, Vermont valleys where the black bears go. Truck keeps rolling, wheels don't care. We're chasing daylight, chasing bear. Gas station coffee, Alpha XL on the dash. Another back road, another bear track. Friends made fast and stories told slow. Under stars where only hunters go. We see the sunrise gold in Canadian air, and it sets on a trail down in Appalachia. Packing steel and leather, grit and care. We're built for the road and chasing bear. So load the dogs and slam the gate. There's a trail ahead, we won't be late. From dawn to dusk, we're always there. Chasing daylight, chasing them bears.